Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, Retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Mysteries of Creation. We are going to start chapter 9, The Lord Instructs Brahma. To answer Parikshit's question about the difference between Vishnu's Virat Roop form and the living beings' material bodies, Shukdev recounts a conversation between Brahma and Lord Narayan at the dawn of creation. This chapter includes the Srimad Bhagavatam's 4 seed verses 33 to 36. Brahma sat on his lotus flower seat surrounded by darkness. He peered into the gloom but saw no one. All he could see was the stem of the great lotus upon which he sat. Climbing down that stalk, he reached a turbulent shoreless ocean, but he was unable to fathom the source of the lotus. Disappointed, he again ascended to the top of the cosmic flower, where he sat confused and frustrated. Where had he come from? He sensed he was meant to create, but did not know how. It was then he heard a resounding voice, twice pronounced 2 syllables, Tapa, Tapa. Brahma looked around in surprise. Who could have uttered those words? There was no one and nothing in existence but him and the lotus upon which he sat. It could not therefore have been a material sound. It must have been a transcendental vibration. Surely it was the Lord who had spoken to him. Brahma's 4 heads turned from side to side and up and down. Straining to see the Lord, surely he must be nearby. Again Brahma scrambled down the lotus stem, hoping to find him, and again he was disappointed. Exhausted by his search, he sat down and considered the matter. Tapa means penance. The Lord had clearly ordered him to perform austerity. He thus decided to meditate on Krishna, whose instructions were always beneficial. Seeing his devotee intent on following his directions, Krishna became pleased and played his divine flute. The sound entered Brahma's ears as the Gayatri mantra, and a conviction awoke in his heart that by chanting it he would achieve his desires. Brahma realized that Krishna had initiated him. With the desire to satisfy Krishna and inspired from within, he meditated on how there is 1,000-petaled lotus with millions of filaments in the transcendental land of Golok. On its wall is a great golden throne on which sits Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss. Playing his flute resonant with spiritual sound with his lotus-like mouth, he is worshipped by his supreme devotees, the gopis of Vrindavan, along with their numerous expansions, and also from outside the lotus by his external energy Maya, who embodies all mundane qualities. For 1,000 celestial years, equal to tens of thousands of earth years, Brahma restrained his mind and senses and remained fixed in meditation. Pleased with Brahma's sincere penance, Vishnu revealed his personal abode. As Brahma sat meditating with his eyes half closed, the darkness parted and everywhere was brilliantly illuminated by a blinding light. Startled, Brahma covered his eyes with his hands. Gradually, as he became accustomed to the glare, he saw an effulgent planet in the sky. Looking on in wonder, he saw celestial beings offering hymns of praise. O Vaikuntha, divine realm, no other abode is your superior. There is no suffering, confusion, or fear within you. Brahma felt all anxiety leave him. He felt no sense of urgency, hankering, or lamentation. His whole being was suffused with elation born of devotion to the Lord. He wondered at this transformation in himself. Surely it was because here there was no influence of the modes of nature. Since time does not influence the spiritual world, nor can the modes. Brahma realized that whoever enters this abode, whether previously a god or a demon, becomes completely devoted to the Lord. Brahma sat transfixed as the planet came into clearer focus. Its inhabitants had glowing sky blue complexions. Their eyes resembled lotus petals and their garments were yellowish. All were beautifully effulgent youths. They had forearms and were adorned with pearl necklaces and gold medallions. Some of them, wearing lotus flower wreaths on their heads, had complexion like coral and diamonds and were decorated with glittering earrings. Shining airplanes carried handsome young men along with celestially beautiful ladies. They were encircling an indescribably attractive couple and singing praise to Goddess Lakshmi and Lord Narayan. Brahma gazed curiously at the objects of their devotion. Lakshmi was the epitome of divine beauty. Maddened bees hovered around her flower garland as if venerating her. Surrounded by her many girlfriends, she worshipped Narayan as hundreds of finely dressed attendants glorified him. Brahma looked closely at the object of their worship, the personality of Godhead, Lord of the entire devotee community. He marveled at how he was now in the presence of the Lord of Goddess Lakshmi. Of all sacrifices and of the universes, seeing him, Narayan cheerfully called to his foremost servants, standing nearby, Nanda Sunanda Prabal Arhana, Brahma is here. The Lord smiled, his enchanting face radiating affection. His eyes were tinged with red, making him appear intoxicated. His blackish oiled hair was crowned with jeweled helmet and decorated with brilliant earrings. Like his attendants, he also had forearms and was dressed in yellow robes. On the left side of his chest, Brahma could see a golden line, which he recognized as the celebrated Srivatsa, the insignia of Goddess Lakshmi. Seated on his splendid jeweled throne, Narayan was surrounded by the 6 personified forms of religion, knowledge, wealth, fame, strength, and renunciation. The personal forms of the 4 principal energies governing material creation also attended him, along with those of the 16 elements. When Goddess Lakshmi noticed Brahma standing at a distance, staring at Narayan in mute astonishment, she rose from her throne and approached him with motherly affection. Come, child, our beloved Lord will be so happy to meet you. Encouraged, Brahma drew closer and stood before Narayan, his heart melting with transcendental love and his eyes filled with tears of joy. Trembling with ecstasy, he sank to his knees and placed his foreheads at the Lord's feet. Narayan was overjoyed on seeing him, recognizing in Brahma someone worthy of creating and controlling the material universe. He stood up and personally raised Brahma, warmly shaking his hand. In deep and affectionate tones, Narayan said, Brahma, I know that you desire to please me by your service of creation. Therefore, I am satisfied with your long penance. I am ever pleased by yogis who perform penance to procure their own enjoyment. Brahma stood as if stunned, enthralled by the Lord's beauty and reveling in the exquisite sound of his voice. Narayan sat back on his throne and beckoned Brahma to sit next to him. He said, Brahma, I wish you all good. Ask me for a benediction, for I can grant whatever your heart desires. Narayan smiled and added, Of course, having seen me, you have already achieved the greatest benediction because you have obeyed my earlier instruction to perform austerity. You have attained my abode, thereby achieving complete knowledge and auspiciousness. Brahma's golden lips parted in delight. He had been right. It was the Lord who had instructed him. Narayan smiled. Yes, Brahma, it was I who ordered you to undergo penance. I am almost pleased when a person gives up material enjoyment and practices austerity to satisfy me. Indeed, performance of penance is most dear to me. You should know that when one engages in penance, he directly connects with my internal spiritual energy, which is not different from me. There is no contamination of material enjoyment in that spiritual energy. Thus, it is identical with penance. It is by this internal energy that I create, maintain, and withdraw the material universe. I am always engaged in penance, for I am always aloof from the material pleasure. You should know that the ability to create the universe comes from penance only. So we will continue from here onwards next time. Thank you for joining. Hare Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.